everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Geek Bites, brought to you by the
Geek Buddies. Hey!
We are coming to you to have a fun conversation about the first two episodes of The Acolyte, which dropped on Disney Plus here. Lost, Found, Revenge, Justice. A lot for us to dive into here. The story of Osha and May. We'll see what our three overall thoughts are on these first two episodes. We are going to spoil it, take it step by step through the episodes, talk about storylines, performances, direction, overall feelings, and then wrap up with just some final thoughts here. That's basically how this review is going to go. If you haven't seen the first two episodes, then please go and watch them and then come back and hang out with us. Or if you don't give an F, then stick around. We're going to spoil everything for you. But let's introduce ourselves first. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
I am Michael Vogel, writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm a television actor and an animation writer where you can see some of our current work right now on Netflix with the first two seasons of Strawberry Shortcake, Berry in the Big City. You can see all three seasons on YouTube, and you can also see the holiday specials, seasonal holiday specials, two of which were wrote by that guy right there on Netflix. Are all of them out? Are three of them out?
All
or four
of them are out.
All of them are out.
Wow. All right. Get them.
Spring, summer, fall.
Yeah, there's a line from a song there, but I can't remember it right now. Anyway, all right, we're getting into it here. Let's get to it. Let's start it off because we got a lot to cover, so let's not waste any time with any extra conversation. Michael Vogel, your overall thoughts these first two episodes here of The Acolyte?
I am on Team Acolyte. I very much enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it a bit more than most of the other recent things that we've been getting from Star Wars. Now, granted, out of the three of us, I am the one who has read the High Republic era and is more into this part of the Star Wars universe. But that being said, I think overall, I don't think it's perfect. I have some things that bugged me. I have my critiques, but overall, I really like the new characters. I'm engaged in the story, and I really love that we're seeing some new things in the Star Wars universe. I think this show still feels very Star Wars to me, but as opposed to seeing a bunch of Twi'leks and Rodians and Ithorians, we're seeing new aliens. We're seeing some really cool wire work. We're seeing parts of the galaxy we've never seen before. So for me, even though this wasn't maybe the home run that Andor is, it's definitely on the higher end of the Star Wars shows.
Okay. Shannon, your overall thoughts on these first two episodes here from writer-director Leslye Headland.
It's fine. It's fine. I would put it right in the middle of the Star Wars shows. And right now, because it's a mystery. And I think it'll be easier to figure out where it goes once that mystery is fully revealed. Where it is right now, I do like what they're trying to do, even though I think they're not really executing it the best way. I think there is a lack of imagination that goes into some of their action sequences, despite the fact that I do like the wire work. I think it looks cool. Yeah. I think by the time you get to episode 2, that wire work, it is played out. And if that is the action that we're going to get going further, because I feel like the differences between the big fight scene in the first episode, big fight scene in the second episode, those differences, they are very, very small. And I think you have to level up this new technique that they're employing. I think some of the acting is a little stiff. There are a couple of standout performances, and there's one that I really question why the director chose this individual. Well, it's not a question. I know why they chose this individual, but I'm thinking that they shouldn't have chosen this individual based off of the performance that we're getting.
Fair enough. Yeah, I will say I fall somewhere in between the two of you. I like it a little bit more than Shannon, but less than Michael for sure. I thought that, I rewatched them again this morning. I like the idea of the mystery, as you said, Shannon, and where it's going. I'm still kind of accepting the Force foo stuff that goes on, because if you're a Jedi and you've got and you're a master and you've got this ability with the Force, how are these people able to get the jump on you and whatever? So I have questions in logic and lapse in logic and certain decisions, certain character decisions that make me question things. And the acting. Yeah, I have a question on a couple of people, not as many maybe as Shannon does, but a couple of people on the acting here overall. But I think what is the number one thing that I come out of this is that this is a mystery. And the first two episodes, this is a show that feels like it's going to be a lot better once it's over and you can binge it all together and you can connect all the references. And so that's where I think I'm a little bit stuck on right now, fully giving my opinion on the show at this point. So these are just my random thoughts for the first 2 episodes. And the tones, the tone is a little too young for me. They seem a little too relaxed about the weighty, heavy things that they're doing here. The killing of Jedi is essentially killing a police officer or killing a priest in this time. And so I feel like that carries a lot of emotion behind it. And so I just got concerns about that overall. But I like the direction here. I like the visuals. I like the different planets and the look of everything from this end of the High Republic era. So overall, definitely has my interest. Definitely enjoyed the journey. I'm just waiting to see more of it. And I will be diving into the other 2 episodes that I've gotten to see how I feel after that 4th episode overall. So we'll see. But let's dial into this story. Let's go to the storyline, Michael. You know, you're a showrunner. You understand how to take an arc on all these stories here. Let's talk about this overall story here. Clearly, this is May and Osha. We find out at the end of the 2nd episode that in the 1st episode, rather, that that Osha didn't know that May was alive. May is alive now. At the end of the 2nd episode, Osha finds out that May is alive. So we've got these, May finds out that Osha is alive. So we've got these 2 twins here. Clearly something happened 16 years ago. 4 Jedi were involved. One of the Jedi Master Soul had taken on Osha to be his Padawan. Osha broke away from the Jedi Order. She's now a Mechnik. And we get introduced to these other characters like Yord and Jecki, who are part of this whole story and crew going after Osha and May. And we get to meet Qirim. And of course, we have Vernestra Rowe in this as well. So, Michael, your overall thoughts on this mystery and this storyline and where we're going here in these first 2 episodes?
Well, it's interesting. You know, on the surface of it right now, it looks like a mystery that's not a huge mystery. I mean, we don't know what the Jedi did on May and Osha's home planet, but I think we're going to find out next week. But like, I think that, you know, it seems like it's not a mystery when a character walks in the first scene in an episode and you watch them kill the Jedi. There's no mystery to who killed the Jedi. It was May. But I think what's going to be interesting is seeing what happens with May and Osha as characters as more and more is revealed about what happened with these 4 Jedi and why May wants to kill them. I mean, with Osha, you know, they kind of play this big moment at the beginning where we watch May kill Indara, and then you instantly cut to Osha sort of waking up from like a dream or a nightmare, and it's very sudden. And they very briefly play the, oh, is this the person? And now she's back home and whatever. And then we're like, oh no, it's a different character. But there may be more to it than that. I mean, she very specifically says to her friend, the other Mechnik, when he's like, hey, why didn't you come out with us last night? And she's like, oh, I was doing my own thing. Like, I can do what I want to do. And so her whereabouts aren't really known for that period of time the day before when she was gone. So there's a couple places where I feel like there's openings for more information that we may not have. And then with May, I mean, very obviously, you know, she kills Indara. She's on her way out. She looks like she's about to kill the guy who owns the cantina, sees that guy has a kid, doesn't kill the guy. So May, we're like, okay, you're not giving me Darth Vader vibes right now. You're not giving me the worst. And, you know, when Leslye Headland pitched this show to Kathleen Kennedy, she pitched it as Frozen meets Kill Bill. And within the first 2 episodes, we get it. Like, there's 2 sisters and someone has a list of people that they're killing. So the Kill Bill Frozen thing is really clear, but the fact that May didn't know Osha was alive, Osha didn't know May was alive, Saul says, I saw May die, but then doesn't seem super shocked that May is still around.
A minute later. Yeah.
Literally a minute later. So I think that, you know, there's going to be a lot of back and forth on, I think, who actually the Acolyte is. And given what this mysterious figure says at the end to May and what the concept of the show is like, look, killing a Jedi with a blade, killing a Jedi with a blaster, like, the Jedi's dead, but you're not going to really destroy the Jedi as a concept. And to really take the Jedi down, killing a Jedi without a weapon as a thing. And this is a thing that's like even in the Darth Vader comics with the Sith trials and how you sort of bleed a kyber crystal to make a red lightsaber. There's elements to that, but I think the bigger idea is taking down this concept of what the Jedi are. And when you look at characters like Yord, when you look at the way the Jedi are carrying themselves, when you look at the way that they are sort of casually using the Jedi mind trick on people, I mean, the Jedi think pretty highly of themselves right now. I mean, they are at their most powerful, but I think for my money, Osha's the one that is going to have an easier time killing Jedi without a weapon as far as breaking Saul's heart, if that is where we're going, than May would. So I think it's going to be, I think we have some cool twists and turns, and I really like everything they're setting. Obviously, since I'm sitting here talking about, but all the ideas of what the Jedi are, how you kill a Jedi, what is really going on here with this Acolyte character. I think they're presenting a lot of really, really interesting things. I agree with you guys that this show is going to live or die on where it ends up. Like we could be here 6 weeks from now and I could be like, wow, they really shit the bed on all this shit. This was lame. But I'm hoping that that's not the case. And I'm hoping that they're really building something interesting here.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Shannon, on the story here with Osha and May and their journey with going on, the allusion to what happened in the past here, and Soul's role in all of this, and Master Torben, suicide, essentially killing himself, committing suicide from the guilt of what happened. We do get teased with Kelnaka at the end. There's a Wookiee Jedi. So 4 Jedi here apparently did something or agreed to do something. And now, finally, all these years later, May, who was presumed dead, is coming to kill these Jedi. And then you have this dream sequence as well, Shannon, with Osha and May, where May's eyes turn black. And we saw that in the trailer. So is there some kind of mind control going on here as well? So what are your thoughts overall on the story that we got here in this episode?
Well, first, Master Torben, aka the Barry Gibb Jedi. I would like to see the casting breakdown. We want someone who kind of looks like they're a member of the Bee Gees. The story that they're setting up, I'm actually really, really into the story. I love that this is taking place during the High Republic, even though I only read the first half of that first book, or rather I listened to it on Audible. I love that they're branching out and they're trying to do something different. I like the worlds that they're constructing. And the actual story, I think is a lot of fun. I mean, the way that Vogel talked about the sort of morally ambiguous actions that some of the Jedi take with, they talk about the mind wipe thing that they do, the fact that they can reach into someone's head and pull some information out. Even with Carrie-Anne Moss within Dara, there is an arrogance there when she says, when May comes up and says, Master and Dara, like, yes, my child, there is, I mean, you might call it like an emotional disconnect, but the way that I was looking at it is like, she's a little high on herself. I mean, the Jedi, they are the badasses of the universe. So the story that they're setting up, I'm really, really into. In terms of Osha's that dream sequence that she has in that first episode, when we find out in episode 2 that May didn't know Osha was alive. It's like, okay, this dark character, this May's master, this is clearly who is doing this. I mean, that twin sort of incantation that they have, like I give you, you give me. I mean, that is clear. I'm hoping that is going to play into something. Because I mean, that's laid out there very, very apparent. And I mean, I like a riddle like that as something that like, I think that's
Shannon
really, really
likes
fun.
Words that rhyme. Rhyming words are really Shannon's thing.
If the words rhyme and they're alliterative as well, I mean, like right in the sweet spot. I do have some logic questions, like the way that Yord is introduced with Osha. She's like, "Oh, you finally completed your trials." You can hear with Jecki how she doesn't think much of Yord. So this feeling is clearly not just these two. Like there is a vibe that Yord might not be the most capable of Jedi Knights, and why they would send him to go apprehend this Jedi killer. I'm like,
let's put a pin in there because I'm going to go character through character in the review. So I see Michael ready to jump. Just hold on a second. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Listen, I'm on board with the Yord horde. Don't come for Yord.
I'm sure
I'm not coming for Yord. I'm talking about what they have clearly laid out.
Yeah, I like the story. I like I like a good murder mystery. I like the idea that they're setting up here that something happened in the back of the past here 16 years ago. And this is clearly a show that is showing you the flaws of the Jedi, the being in control, that any people that are in power, eventually the cracks start to show. Eventually, as generations and generations go on, there are issues that pop up. And yes, even within our own country, we like to see ourselves as American exceptionalists or whatever. There is stuff in our past that's pretty negative in our past as well that we have to kind of come to terms with as citizens of this country, as many people do as citizens of their own country, or even more micro or micro level within our own families. Some of the stuff we hear our family members do is like, all right, I got to come to church. I still got to say hi to him at Christmas. So these are these things that we have to kind of come to terms with. And so I like that the show itself is showing you that the Jedi is a bit haughty right now. They're a little arrogant. They're a little how can I say this? They're a little too caught up in what they can do, and they're not seeing the dangers that are just around the corner. And as Vernestra tells Soul, there's also political implications here. One of our own killing us, it would give more ammunition to our enemy. So there is some political aspect of this all that's teased here in the story as well. But I like the collection of characters. I like that they're going on this mission. They're trying to figure out what's happening. And by the end, we have Soul going, no, I need to go to Kafar to kill Naka because I got to save this guy. And like, no, we're going to talk about it. We're going to have the council, and then we're going to figure out what we're going to do. So we see that there are gears that are grinding here that are frustrating. And so how is that going to play out in the overall story? But the May and Osha stuff, the twins, the fire here, her having that PTSD flashback early on in the first episode when she's fixing the stuff outside there on the ship, and then later her visions. And then, of course, May and her conversations about what happened in the past and conversation with Qirim about it. So all of that, I'm excited to see more of here in the story. But let's go character by character. Shannon, all right, let's talk about this. What's your thoughts on the May and Osha situation? Are we enjoying what we're seeing from them and where we're going in terms of their performances, but also in terms of this duality, as you were mentioning earlier, as a character?
I mean, I like Amandla Stenberg. I mean, yeah. I think she's doing a good job. I mean, is she what I would call one of the standouts of the show? Not yet. But that doesn't mean it's not going to get there. I seen someone else, I think on our thread said this on our text thread. I tend to like her a little bit more as May than I do as Osha at this point. But again, yeah. The characters are they're on a journey right now. I mean, I feel like there is this weird conflictedness that May has after she has killed Indara, or even right before she's going to kill Indara. And I'm curious where, like, that's interesting to me. Like, okay, where is that coming from? And obviously we're gonna find out the more, like, when we find out what actually happened in the past. Stenberg's Osha is fine. I think the thing that really interested me, and I saw some people talking about this, and I was like, maybe I saw this wrong. But when May and Osha do have that moment at the end of episode 2, yeah, where Osha has the blaster on her and she fires, and like, oh, she missed. I'm like, no, she didn't. She's letting her sister get away. Like, she intentionally missed twice so she can say, hey, I tried, I didn't hit her. So that speaks to just a deeper relationship that these two have. And again, the fact that neither one of them knew the other was alive, the fact that at least Osha is having these flashbacks, is having these dreams where May is speaking to her. It's like, that ain't May. I mean, so this relationship, I'm very curious to find out more about. I mean, I do think there is a little bit of awkwardness with some of the Osha dialogue, and I don't totally put that on Stenberg. I put that on Leslye Headland, on the writer, and I don't know if the actors across the board, I don't know if they got the best direction from Headland, because I think you have some strong performances, and then you have some performances from actors that I know their work in the past, and like, this isn't lining up. And it's like, okay, if you have a good actor delivering a bad performance who has been good in the past, I'm like, that might not be their fault. That might be how they were directed.
Okay. All right, Mike, your thoughts on Amandla Stenberg, but also about the storyline here with May and Osha, as we were referencing earlier, each one discovering that the other one is alive, these dream sequence, and then later Osha letting May, in essence, escape there with some plausible deniability that she did try to stop her. But curious also that Osha doesn't run out there to be part of the crew that's trying to stop May as well. So your thoughts overall on how they're handling this storyline with these two? Do you like the way it's been set up and how Amandla Stenberg is doing portraying both of these characters?
Yeah, I think Amandla Stenberg's great, and I think she's doing a really, really nice job here. And I think any of my issues that I will agree with Shannon that I think any of the issues I have right now with Osha or May's performance tend to be more in the direction than they do in the performance. I think she's doing a good job, particularly because without doing anything that's overly broad or over the top, it's pretty, I mean, obviously we can tell based on their costumes and the context, but like Osha and May do act differently.
Yeah.
Like there's a different vibe to both of them. And it's subtle stuff. It's not like May has a tick. You know, like it's not some like overly like obvious thing. Oh, May's got that limp. I can tell who May is. Like she just in a very subtle way, there's a different performance that she's giving Osha than she's giving May. And I think she's doing a really, really nice job with it. I think, I do think there are some points and I do wonder if this has to do with like May being conflicted, but there are some points where May's not coming across the most villainous. I mean, she's fighting Jedi and she's killing people. She's not coming across as like, I'm a mini Asajj Ventress, but I don't think she's supposed to. And I think that as we get to know more about the story, it's like that seems like it's going to be like, okay, I get that. With Osha, particularly in the second episode, and this is not Amandla Stenberg's thing, there are moments where I'm like, you want your main character, your hero. Like I said, Osha may not be our hero at the end of this, but she's our hero at the moment. She's our protagonist. You want your hero to be more active. And so the fact that she was sort of sidelined during this whole battle with Saul and May and kind of just stood around and listened, it's like you sort of would love it if she was like, oh, I want to see what's going on. Here's some obstacles that I need to get past. And she had stuff to do. She kind of stood there until it was time for her to go see May. And then she went and saw May. And so, if I were really critiquing this moment, I'd be like, you don't want, like if Han and Leia told Luke, hey, stand here and don't move.
Right.
Luke's gonna do some shit. Like, it's like, it's pretty clear. So I wish she had done that. But I mean, that's getting really into the weeds of something. Like, I think all the big beats were there. And I also agree with Shannon that Osha did not accidentally miss and was aiming for May. Like the second that they saw each other, and I really liked, and this is just a little writing detail. I like that May said Oshi instead of Osha. I like that she like clearly they had like this is what they called each other when they were kids. And just you instantly are like, oh, May's not that evil. Like, I mean, I already knew she wasn't super evil. She didn't kill the kid, but like, she was genuinely had an emotional reaction to seeing her sister. So I think like that moment between the two of them was really, really nice and telling. So yeah, I think she's doing a good job. I'm really curious to see where both of these characters go. And I'm really jonesing to know what went down when they were kids. And I do think. Oh
no, I was going to Monday morning quarterback real quick. Sorry.
Go for it. Go for it.
Well, no. After that Soul Osha scene, Soul puts her on the ship with Jecki. Yeah. That's what you do. You put her there, and then when she sees that fight happen, Jecki turns around, she's gone. Yeah, I mean, that gives you a more proactive protagonist.
There are, but like, I do think like it's funny. You can go see, I went and rewatched it, and like, there's certain scenes like, John, I agree with you, even though we were arguing about it on our text chain yesterday. The scene with May and Qirim when they're doing the poison and they're talking about killing the Jedi, it does come across a little casual, and you're like, this doesn't quite feel like it's doing what you want it to do. But then there's other scenes like Osha and Saul, when Saul sees her tattoo, that are just like perfect, lovely scenes that are just like this great character scene where he's like, what's that? And she's like, you hate it. And he's like, it doesn't matter what I think. And you're like, these two have, you feel the years of their relationship. So there are some scenes that don't quite fit tonally. You're like, oh, I wish this was a little bit more this, a little bit that. And that is the directing and sometimes the writing. But overall, I'm really liking where these two characters are going. And, you had me at we're doing Frozen in a Star Wars universe.
Yeah, Amandla Stenberg, I think, is doing a nice job with Osha. I like her Osha. It's much more, there's much more to play. May is just very like, okay, I'm gonna kill the Jedi, I gotta kill the Jedi, make me a poison, I gotta kill this Jedi, come at me, Jedi, with all your force. So she hasn't been given a lot to play until that moment at the end, as you said, Michael, with the Oshi. Now we see something more, right? Her stuff with Qirim back and forth is what it is. Her going when Sol confronts her saying, you guys did this, her talking to Master Torben and saying, look, I'm giving you a chance. You can either admit to the Jedi Council what you did or drink this poison. So these are little moments, but Osha's getting more to play here, which is why I'm enjoying her performance as Osha more, because she's the one that reveals about why she left the Jedi Order. Very Ahsoka-like, saying it was my decision. I left. It wasn't Indara lobbying them to kick me out. It was because I wanted to go. My skills didn't transfer over, so I became a mechanic. I'm much more flexible than a droid. I'm doing my thing. It's a slow progression for her as she's accepting things step by step. May being alive has really unsettled her. You get that feeling. And then in the next episode, as they're going after her, you can tell she has these issues, but her and Sol are having this strong connection. Sol clearly is affected by Osha, which is what Jecki calls him out on. And so clearly there's a deeper relationship. Even when Esther comments on it the first time they meet up in the show about his connection to her. So clearly there's more here, as you pointed on, Michael, that I want to see flesh out. So I'd like May to have more to play with so I can start to see the levels in May as well. But for an initial beginning, I like these two as characters, and I want to see more as we go forward. And hopefully as more things get revealed from May's point of view, we get a deeper portrayal of the character to balance out what we've already seen with Osha. I just like her energy much more as Osha than May just yet. I don't really buy her as this Jedi killer. And as you said, Michael, that may be on purpose because they've gone to certain lengths to prove that she's not altogether evil, which may be a detriment to the show. When you start out, you kind of want to not like May. You kind of want to portray her as evil so that when the redemption possibly happens, and Sol certainly alludes to it when he's like, have faith in May. Well, if you don't have faith in May, have faith in me. And even at the end, when he essentially allows May to get away because she throws a dust bomb, he is caught up in wanting to redeem her. He's caught up in his guilt of what happened in the past. And even he says to Sol or to Osha, I wanted to save you both. So clearly something happened here where he either chose to save Osha over May or punished May for what he said earlier in the episode of setting the fire that killed her village and her family and her mom, who we're going to find out, Jodie Turner-Smith, in later episodes. So interesting stuff that is being laid in the groundwork and wanting to find out more about it. But I do like the story they're going down. Michael, your thoughts on Sol? What is your thoughts on Master Sol here? Lee Jung-jae, Emmy winner for Squid Game, coming in here to play a master. A lot of interesting colors and tones and layers and levels with him, starting out as this Jedi Master, teaching the younglings, and even one of them talking about fire and him trying to adjust the lesson to fit. But clearly his connection with Osha is very strong here. Him and Yord and Jecki, and there's a nice interaction with them as well throughout the first two episodes. But he's a guy who's tenderhearted. He's caring. He wants to think the best of people, and then at the end wants to violate the council and go to save his fellow Jedi there on the Wookiee planet. So your thoughts on Sol and Lee Jung-jae's performance throughout this first two episodes?
I'm gonna tell you, Lee Jung-jae is a standout. Lee Jung-jae is the best thing in the show. He, in 2 episodes, is already at Qui-Gon Jinn levels of awesome.
Agreed.
He's 100%. In 2 episodes, I'm like, yep, you and Qui-Gon, you're my boys. This is it. You're good. He's killing it. Everything he says, everything he does, every expression on his face is like the heart of the show, which is why I think I am going to be devastated when I find out what the fuck they did. Look, Indara, you put Trinity as a Jedi, I buy it, but Shannon is not wrong. She's a little haughty, a little full of herself.
Oh, haughty. You mean Haughty? Okay.
I mean, yes, haughty. Sorry. I mean, haughty too.
I mean, yes.
Both.
But yes.
But Torben, we barely knew ye. You floated. You had a receding hairline. You had one janky eye. You killed yourself. Beard. He ain't
staying alive.
And Kalnaka.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
And Kalnaka, like, we all love Wookiees, but, you know, he looked pretty grumpy at the end of episode 2. So if I find out that those 3 did some shit, I'm like, okay. But Saul, I'm like, come on, buddy. Come on. Don't do me like this. But yeah, I think his performance is great. And he does follow in a long line of Jedi who seem to not want to do things the way the Order tells them to do things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can draw a pretty direct line from like Qui-Gon Jinn basically being like, screw y'all, council, I'm gonna go find this kid and I'm gonna make him my Padawan, to Obi-Wan Kenobi being like, I know you don't want me to, but I'm gonna do what Qui-Gon Jinn told me, to Anakin being like, I'm not going to do what the Jedi Order tells me. And Saul looks like he fits right in with that. Like when Vernestra is always like, here's what we need to do. He always wants to follow his own heart. He always wants to follow what the Force is telling him. And ultimately, there is a thing, I mean, particularly when you read the High Republic books, where they introduce this idea of Jedi called Wayseekers, who are Jedi that leave the Jedi Council entirely and just get permission from the Council to go off and just follow their own, this is what the Force is telling me to do. And there is just this idea that a Jedi Council, I mean, by the time we get to this end of this series, between this and the prequels and Clone Wars and everything, a Jedi Council or a Jedi Order might just be a bad idea. It just might not be a good idea. But Saul as a character kind of, to me, represents he's clearly the best. His heart is strong. And he's the one that, out of all of the Jedi that we've seen thus far, is struggling against what the Council is telling him to do.
Shannon, your thoughts on Lee Jung-jae's performance and the character of Soul and what's driving him over these first 2 episodes?
Fully agree with everything that Vogel said. I mean, he is the heart and soul of the show, and I think sometimes playing a Jedi probably is not the easiest because they are supposed to be kind of stoic. But there is a humanity in Lee Jung-jae's eyes that anytime you see him sort of falling in line, like you know, doing the company man Jedi action, behind his eyes you see he's not fully on board with it. I mean, when he's talking about, you know, him saying have faith in May, to me is kind of a crazy statement because this person has just killed 2 people. But when he says have faith in me, like, again, this is something that just speaks to his ability as an actor, is that him being able to play that sort of inner life. And I think that can be difficult, again, when you're playing a Jedi who is supposed to be more of kind of a stoic character. I think what he is able to do is something that other people in the cast maybe aren't able to do, that maybe aren't at that level, that don't have that inner life that they're able to play. I mean, I do agree that they clearly did something. They did some shit. And when Vogel said, you know, it's going to break his heart when he finds out what he actually did, I'm like, it's going to break my heart when Saul dies. But that's my prediction right now. But yes, I do think there are 2 standouts in this show, and Lee Jung-jae is one of them.
Yeah, I like Lee Jung-jae's performance. I enjoy him. Obviously loved him in Squid Game, and seeing him here in a new format, I think, was fascinating. I'm not sure how much work he's done in the English language. I would have to go and take a look and see. So I think that there are moments where that holds him back emotionally in certain spots. And so I found myself questioning at times the full commitment to some of the emotion in certain scenes. So that bothered me a little bit. I hear what you're saying, though. He's a stoic Jedi. He seemed a little too stoic about stuff that's going on. There should be more of a drive and imperativeness to get to the answer of this stuff than I saw until the end of the 2nd episode. These are the people that he's connected to. Clearly, he knows what this is all about. So I would love to have seen, and maybe this is more a Leslye Headland thing, some solo scenes with Soul where he is sitting there, maybe having his own flashback or contemplating his own thing. But again, we're only 2 episodes in, so maybe in the 3rd or 4th episode that's going to happen, and we get to see, as Michael said, the background and what Soul did that eventually led him to be one of the people that May wants to kill. But performance-wise, I think he's doing great throughout. There's clearly, as you guys said, the heart, the emotion, the connection that he has with all the characters, even the way he deals with Yord's aggressiveness. He's very much like patting him on the shoulder and stuff. And even when he dismisses his idea of what he wants to do and goes with Jecki's idea, It's more a matter of, I know this is going to make you mad, but I'm going to do it anyway, this kind of thing. So he navigates all these relationships really well. And he serves, I imagine Jude Law is going to be like this in Skeleton Crew, where he's kind of the older energy. He's got to make sure everybody is on board and they're going in the same direction. So I like that vibe. I do have some story questions. I don't understand, if you're a master Jedi, you don't just, if you can freeze May, you could have frozen May the whole time till they put the shackles on and put her up in the ship, but you let her get away. This is my question. I think he's too nice. I think he's too sympathetic. I think he believes in the idea of redemption too much. And the flaws in the Jedi isn't just arrogance. The flaws in the Jedi sometimes can also be, we just believe in people too damn much, and they will end up destroying things, killing things, and end up wrecking the order down the road, and the rise of the Empire, which is 100 years away from happening, but is going to happen. So for me, I have questions that Soul is a bit too lenient on the May situation. Even with Qirim, he's like, you know what? Tell us what you did and we'll let you go with a warning. I know you helped to kill one of the members of my Jedi Order, but you will let you go with a warning. This isn't Law and Order. This is real shit here, man. So to me, I was just looking at it like some questionable decisions that Soul is a bit too nice, and we need something a bit more harder to figure this out. But that's the whole point of the story, is to have conflict, right? So,
fully agree, Johnny. When he said, we'll let you go with a warning, they're like, that's bad, right? That's lazy. Hell, you got to come up with something better.
Well, okay, a couple things really quick on that. First, I mean, look, on the whole, like, yes, if you could freeze May, why don't you just freeze her, put the shackles on? Like, May is also using the Force.
I mean, it's like, well as him. He's a master. She's way lower on than it's like playing.
She's just killed two masters
versus JV at a high school.
Sure, but like she killed Indara.
She killed one Indara. She offered, the other one killed himself. There's a difference.
Well, as Chimere, who is clearly, as Chimere, who we'll get to in a minute, but knows a lot more than he's saying, like, she still killed the dude. Like, the dude was in a force field, and she knew exactly the thing, she was told exactly the thing that would get him out of it.
Yeah.
My point is, when two people are battling, even with the Force, with its magical, I can freeze you, like, he's not Professor X. He's not, like, taking control of her mind. Like, he's putting the Force, exerting the Force on her. She's exerting the Force back. So he can't, like, just hold her indefinitely. On the Chimere front, they don't know that he made the poison. They just know that...
He says they have the recording.
He gave her some. Well, okay, my bad. Like, I take that back. They do know he gave her the poison, but they don't know that he is her accomplice. Like, as far as they know, they're on the Outer Rim, and there's a guy that sold her some drugs or sold her some shit that she used to kill somebody. But would you go, if somebody sold somebody a gun, say, "Hey, you sold this killer a gun, I'm taking you in"? Like, you don't necessarily do that.
I'm not going to say that. I mean, because they just in Michigan arrested two parents and put them in jail for letting their kid have access to the gun. So I hear what you're saying, though. I hear what you're saying. I just think there could have been a different approach to it. And look, Yord and Soul were there with the Force, and Jecki was up there in the ship. They could have easily detained her with combined Force powers. She is not that strong of a Force user at this point, because clearly she couldn't break the Force.
She seems like a pretty strong Force user to me. Like, I don't know where you're getting this. She's not good with the Force.
Well, I'm not saying she's not good. I'm saying she's not as good. There's a difference. There's levels here, and I think she's like JV with the Force or varsity in high school, and he's the NFL. It's two different things in the way I look at it. And I think they could have detained her if they wanted to, but it wasn't part of the story, and she has to get away, and we have to have the Soul. The Osha and May moment there at the end. So I get it. I just think it could have been handled a little more logically or organically. Yeah,
agree. Sure. I think based off of the fact that she did kill Indara, they would have gone in a little stronger.
They should have gone in a little bit. Well, but maybe that's the flaw with having Soul lead things, because Soul leads with compassion instead of trying to lead with, like, Yord. I think Yord was right, by the way. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry, Mike. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I think this gets less into Saul is too compassionate, because I would argue that I don't think the Jedi fell to the Empire because they were too compassionate and forgiving. They fell because they were idiots and they became generals in an army. But I think this kind of supports Shannon's point more than anything else, which is, after we've seen this amazing opening action sequence where May kills Indara, having this second action sequence kind of have the same level of energy is kind of what the issue is, more than Saul is too forgiving. Like, had this been a more dynamic action sequence that built on the action sequence before it, and all of a sudden this flew to the rooftops because May got away from him and they all started leaping from rooftop to rooftop and Jecki was coming in, like, there's budgetary things to that. There's other things that they might not been able to do. But to Shannon's original point about the action, which I do agree with, is like, I love the wire work. I love what's happening. But once you've started so strong in that opening scene with Indara, getting to the next scene and kind of doing another version of what you did leads exactly to what you're doing, which is, well, wait a minute, why couldn't they have done this? We've already seen that she can do this. And if she all of a sudden like leveled up to this whole other thing, you'd go, oh wow, that she really is something. And it would have solved the issue that you're having.
Much more impressed with that, Mike. That's an excellent point. If she'd been able to outwit them with more than just a dust bomb, I think I would have been a bit more. I like the dust bomb. That's fair. Let's take a quick break as we're 40 minutes into this review. We got to get to these other characters before we wrap up here right after this. All right, let's get into these other characters. I'm going to put them all together, and then we'll give our thoughts here. We have Dafne Keen playing Jecki Lowe. I thought she was fantastic here. We have Yord rolling through this whole thing. Yord with an interesting character, Charlie Barnett being a part of this as well. And then we have Vernestra Rowe, legendary Vernestra Rowe, being played by Rebecca Henderson. And then we have Qirim here, played by Manny Jacinto, who I also think is a hell of a stand-up. And I've never watched The Good Place, which I hear he's great in. So an interesting collection of actors and characters. Shannon, give me your overall thoughts on these characters and how you feel they fit into the first two episodes. And I know we're going to have a longer Yord conversation, so go ahead.
Dafne Keen is the other standout. I mean, you know, she has worked in these larger worlds before with Logan, with his Dark Materials. She is a performer that understands the assignment. And her and Soul as a duo, I really like them together. I really liked her scene with Osha when Osha says, like, hey, Padawan, like, you know, when you find out a little bit about Osha being a Mechnik. I think Dafne Keen is fantastic. Yord is kind of a goober. I mean, and I'm not saying Charlie Barnett's not doing a good job. I think he's doing a good job for what he has been given. But yes, I mean, I think Yord's character calls into question some of the logic choices that Soul picks Jecki's plan, even though, John, I think you're probably right that Yord's probably would have maybe been a little more effective. Osha saying, I can't believe, you finally did this. I didn't think it would ever happen. So it's clear that Yord is potentially operating behind what a normal Jedi Knight would order or would operate, that he's maybe not the strongest. I mean, I do like that he is very by the book.
Do you sense that he's a step behind and a step too forward in other situations? Is that what you're saying?
I think
too aggressive and too dumb at the same time.
Yes. Okay. I think the only time he was a step ahead was with that plan.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, I just get this. I get the sense that he is maybe not all that he can be, but also, it's a series, it's a journey. Like maybe he is going to become this incredible Jedi Knight. But in terms of the actor, I think Charlie Barnett's doing great. Manny Jacinto, he is a wonderful performer. Clearly, a lot more going on than just a smuggler. Like the moment where he realizes that May is not May. There is a wickedness behind those sweet eyes that we're used to seeing on The Good Place that I think we're going to find out a little bit more, that Qirim is not just some like, oh yeah, I used to smuggle for the Hutts and now I get people what they want. I'm not sure. I really like Manny Jacinto. Rebecca Henderson, this to me is the biggest flaw of the cast. She is, to me, this performance based off of the first two episodes, it is dull, it is lifeless. It drags the show down. I mean, the May the Force be with you was the weakest delivery of that line in the history of the Star Wars franchise. Now, I have seen Russian Doll. I really like Russian Doll. I do not remember her from Russian Doll. So this is not to say that she is a bad performer. It is to say in this particular role, and if you are a reader of the High Republic books, as I understand it, this character is very important and very prevalent. I think maybe casting your spouse was the wrong decision.
Oh, wow. Okay. Strong statements there from Shannon McClung. Michael Vogel, I'll go to you on these 4 characters. What are your thoughts here on Jecki, on Yord, on Venestra, and Qirim?
As far as Vernestra goes, I don't know that I thought she was as much of an albatross as Shannon seems to think. I thought she did fine for what I mean. My bigger issue, and this is a High Republic issue, is that I mean, there's a large chunk of time between seeing Vernestra as a young Jedi, the youngest Jedi Knight to ever be to ever make it. And when she made her purple whip, to this adult Vernestra now, who must be 100 and something years old. She's been around a lot. She
says, I remember when Sol was a child. She said, I remember you when you were a child and you were timid. So she's been around a while. Yeah,
she's Mary Allen, and clearly Mary Allen's age, much more like Togruta and some of the other alien races. So she's been around for a long time. But they're like, this character, like, she was not we got to do everything by the book. We have to follow everything the Order says. Her master Stellan was a little bit like that, but she wasn't necessarily like that. So for her to kind of all of a sudden be in this other role where she is the authority, she is we have to do what the council says, she is concerned about politics. That's a very different Vernestra than people who read the High Republic books know. Also, she lost her hair. I used to want a purple lightsaber when I was younger. I do not want a purple lightsaber now, because if you have a purple lightsaber, you're bald. So I don't want it. I don't want a purple lightsaber anymore. I want to know what I more than what happened to Vernestra's personality. I want to know what happened to Vernestra's hair. But so her performance didn't bother me, because she's not blowing me out of the water. But as far as what she represents authority, kind of telling Sol, hey, this is how we're supposed to do things. And I think for that, it's like, she's doing fine. She's not doing great. Dafne Keen's killing it. Jecki is great. I do agree with Shannon that I think that Sol and Jecki are the standouts. Like their master Padawan relationship is great. Every line she has is great. Every line delivery nails. She just seems like a very capable, awesome Padawan, and I'm into her. Like I hope she makes it. I hope she makes it through. Yord, here, I think maybe this is my big thing. And I could be wrong, and I might be 100% incorrect. I just think Shannon's reading of Yord's character is 100% incorrect and not what their intention is.
Okay. All right.
I mean, no, but I'm not saying that to be like, oh, you're like, I just think like we're completely at different ends of what I think they are trying to accomplish. Like, I think Yord is pretty much what Mace Windu was probably like when he became a Jedi Knight. Like, Yord is nothing that they're saying, and nothing about Yord's character leads me to believe that he is not great, or he's like the goober of his class at the Jedi Academy. Like, he wants so badly to do everything exactly by the book. He is the most rule-following Jedi that there is. He is steaming his fucking robes before they go out on a mission so that his robes don't have a crease in them. Like, and then we get to see him shirtless, which I'm not mad about. But I mean, so like, I didn't read Osha's, oh, I never thought you would make it, as like a laugh or an insult. Like, she was like, oh, wow, you're my friend. You made it. This is amazing. And then every single thing, even Jecki's like whole, well, he's Yord. Nothing's wrong with him. He's Yord. Yord is that guy who's in the class who is like going to answer every question. He's Hermione Granger, but with a lightsaber. I mean, he's just annoyingly, like, he's the one he lists off 3 different times, I think. This is against regulation. This is against this. We need to keep her in restraints. We need to do this. Sol, as the Qui-Gon Jinn of the group, who's like, I don't really care what the Order said. This is my Padawan, and I'm going to do what I want. And his entire thing, like, it's not like he's like fumbling around or dropping his lightsaber. He's such a rule follower, and that's what I love about him. Like, and he represents, like, if we're going to use the analogy of the Jedi are sort of full of themselves and kind of represent space cops, he's the young cop who's probably going to make an error because he's overzealous. I mean, they make a very big deal in the show. They say a couple times, that a Jedi doesn't draw their lightsaber unless they're planning on killing somebody. A Jedi draws their lightsaber as a last result. Indara draws her lightsaber only after she recognizes May and realizes this is more than what she thought it was. Sol and Jecki, in 2 episodes, have not touched their lightsabers. and Yord uses his lightsaber as a flashlight in a cave. Like Yord picks up his lightsaber. It's his first move every time. It's his go-to move. And so to me, I think he's a great character. Like I'm actually obsessed with him because I'm like, oh yeah, you're that character who's going to have that great arc because you're going to have to realize that this order that you're following that you believe in more than anything is not all that it's like when he finds out what happened to May and Osha, when he finds out what those 4 Jedi do, what that's going to do to his character, I'm really fascinated by. Chimere is the Palpatine of the show.
What?
I'm telling you, like, what? I could be wrong. And also, if they make Jason Mendoza the Palpatine of the Acolyte, if Jason Mendoza from The Good Place went from being a DJ in Florida to the Palpatine of the show, but like, it's all there. Like, I could be 100% wrong, and it's almost all so there that I could be like completely off, but it's kind of what Shannon said. The second you meet this guy, he is, oh, I was drunk, I was this, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, were you? Mm-hmm. And then he proceeds to lead May completely down a road. He's the one that says how you kill a Jedi. Like every Jedi has a weakness.
Yeah.
Every Jedi can do this. Oh, it's like, and then she's like, I need poison. And he's like, he needs absolution. And then to Shannon's point, when Osha goes in and he's like, hi, da, da, da. Shannon said the second he realizes that it is not May, I think he knew that the second she moved in. I think he was toying with her. And then when he's like, you look just like her. May was shocked that Osha was alive.
Mm-hmm.
Chimere didn't seem shocked. He didn't even seem particularly surprised about it. And then when Saul and the other come in, he completely goes into, oh, I'm just this guy. You guys, oh, don't do your mind trick to me. And then what does he do at the very end of the episode? He's like, oh, by the way, I know where the 3rd Jedi is for you to kill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
May's not getting any of this info from anyone. She's getting it from Chimere. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, are you like the drunk, funny smuggler hiding in plain? You're not the old, friendly senator from Naboo, but you definitely are like the hiding in plain. Like that's a Sith move. I'm going to hide in plain sight. And particularly, I like the moment. If this is right, I could be 100% wrong. 6 weeks from now, you can all tell me I'm an idiot. But when May turns around right before she walks out with the poison, and she turns around and she goes, it would be really bad for you if you told our master that you did this for me. And he's like, okay, yeah, no, it's between you and me. I'm like, I think she literally just told the master, hey, give me some poison so I can go kill another Jedi, even though I know I have to kill at least one of these guys without a weapon for you. So that's my, but, and all that being said, I think he's doing a great job. And I think Manny Jacinto is great and he's killing it. And he's a lot of fun to watch on screen.
All right. So I'll go quickly. Yeah, I agree. Dafne Keen, fantastic. Love her. Give her more to do. So I want to see, hopefully as the episodes go along, we're going to get more to do because that's my X-23. Don't be casting her and giving her just like a sidekick role. I need her to take a little more initiative in future scenes going forward. I'm in the Yord Horde. I think he's absolutely right in everything he's doing. 100%. I don't have a problem with the guy who cares about the order. You know what saves the order? Someone who understands, loves, and respects the order. And so I like the approach he's having. I do question the logic and how Leslye Headland wrote this out, because when we're introduced to him, and yes, he flips his robes out, so clearly he's a kid who probably, well, yes, but I think he's also a kid who comes from low means, a low situation. He got the chance to be this thing. He maybe wasn't the most intelligent guy in the crew, and certainly with Osha, she says, "Hey, it finally happened for you." She's not ball busting him, but she's also got a slight bit of it's like a left-handed compliment, and so it's, in a way, he wasn't the smartest of them, but he takes it seriously because he worked hard to get it. It wasn't easy to him. He isn't Vernestra becoming a Jedi Knight at 15. He is someone who had to work hard to get it, and so there's more care. That's why he's steaming his robes. That's why that's why he tells Sol, hey, stop being so soft and sympathetic to the situation. We're going to get fucked here. And he doesn't listen to him. And he was right. The plan he wanted to go at with Qirim, he was right. And so the thing is, I think Yord is a lot smarter than people are giving him credit for, but because you're caught up with the goofy things he's doing, but he's coming from the place of actually wanting to protect the order and care for the order. So I kind of like that about him. So I'm enjoying Yord, even though I think you're supposed to initially think he's another dumb young male and the women are smarter. I think he's actually got more going on. Kind of reminds me of Kirstie Alley in Star Trek 2. Remember, she's quoting regulations. She's the one that wants to do everything by the book. And she, in essence, was right. Kirk totally said to her, you keep quoting those regulations to me. You're right. So I do like that about you.
But that's but I mean,
I didn't counter any points. You don't get to counter. We're going forward. We don't have the time. We don't have the time. I don't hate her as much as Shannon does, but I do think it's a disservice because they didn't give Vernestra much to do other than what Michael was accurately pointing out, being very rigid about the rules of the order and doing this or that. So I think that's a bit of a disservice. So I think down the road, hopefully we'll get more for Rebecca to do, because I like her as an actor. I loved her in Single Drunk Female. I thought she was great. So when she pops up and stuff, I'm always excited. But I agree, it wasn't the best introduction to her as this character. So we'll see going forward what happens. And yeah, Manny, I don't buy your thing, Michael, but I like him as an actor. He does quote the first line of the Sith kind of mantra to her. So yeah, I think he's much more involved in how he's presenting himself to Soul and everyone else. So I think you're right. I don't know necessarily that he's the master, but he's much more involved in this than anyone. And they're clearly manipulating May. Both either him as the master and this character, or the master and him, Qirim. They are manipulating her to do the things that they're doing by playing on her need for revenge, playing on the fact that she thought her sister was killed or dead, and she blames these Jedi. So they're playing her a little bit. So the Manny Jacinto, Amandla Stenberg, May versus Qirim fight, which I imagine is coming, is going to be awesome. So that's my overall thoughts. All right, Michael, you can do your Yord thing. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, to use your Kirstie Alley example, I don't think that anybody watched Star Trek 2 and thought that Kirstie Alley was a dumb goober. Like, I think she's the right example, but I think that she's sitting there quoting regulation to Kirk, who is going to do things the way he wants to do things in the same way that Yord is doing to Soul. I don't think that anywhere in that, I don't think Yord comes across as dumb, and I don't think they're playing like the dumb guy. Like, I think they're playing the super passionate, really believes in the order guy.
Yeah, because I don't know, because Jecki is always like, Yord is Yord coming? He's just Yord, and then later it's her plan they use over his plan, and she dismisses him. She says we could do all that, or we could do this, and blah blah blah. So there is a dismissive nature to Yord that I think it bugs me. So yeah, Shannon, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, and Jecki also, she is a student. She's a Padawan. She's also following the rules. Like, she asked Soul, permission to speak freely. So she is a rule follower. I don't think it's just that Yord is a rule follower. I think he's maybe not that good at this.
Well, possibly. And the reputation is getting around about him for sure, clearly, as they talked about.
But
Michael, what are your thoughts on this, Mike? What are your thoughts on Leslye Headland's work here as a writer and director overall? As I said earlier, for those of you maybe new, Michael is a showrunner. He's run these shows before. Your thoughts on how she's comes across after these first 2 episodes?
I think overall, I think she's doing good because I like the show and I'm enjoying where it's going. I think that as far as writing goes, I think she's definitely, and I think this traps up everybody who does Star Wars. It's a very hard thing to do. I think she's trying to write in that very heightened Star Wars fashion, and sometimes it works really well, and sometimes it feels a little wooden. Overall, from a directing standpoint, I really like the world. I love that we're not on the volume. I love the practical effects, or like just that we're in the practical world. I particularly love, this isn't really directing, but I'll just throw it in here really quickly. I also love that we're getting new and different aliens, and also it looks like, I could be wrong, but it looks like we're doing actual aliens with some CG enhancements, which I think is the way that we should just do Star Wars. I don't want to see a bunch of CG aliens, but when you have just the aliens with like just the prosthetics, like their mouths kind of move funny sometimes, and like seeing like Nemoidians as like, oh, this is a guy walking around, but the face and the eyes are working right because of CG. Like, it's just a really great, it works really, really well for Star Wars. So I'm a big fan of that. I think that there just doesn't seem
without
to be
Asian accents. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well,
sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
also a fan of Nemoidians without really, really offensively bad accents. That was like, I saw the Nemoidians and I like clutched my pearls, and then they talked and I was like, oh, okay, good. We're fine. We're fine, everybody. I think that there are times what I'm missing is there's a lack of like those beautiful shots. And I think even though the Mandalorian used the volume, there was moments where you would just have these iconically gorgeous shots that were just like, this was framed perfectly. Andor, which is the new bar for all Star Wars shows, just is like, it looks like a Star Wars movie on your TV. And this looks like really good Star Wars TV on my TV. Like there's just moments that you long for. Oh, and we have this shaft of light and the shadow drops down, and it all just seems like it's directed a little bit more for TV. And then my biggest complaint, which is a very odd complaint that I've never had before, is I just don't like her very abrupt endings. And this kind of ties into the lack of the scope. Is like we sort of got to the end of the first episode, and I love everything that the master was saying about how to kill Jedi, and he's standing on this ledge on what I'm assuming is Octo, and the lightsaber comes out, but then it just like cuts to credits, but it didn't have that shot that felt like a final shot. And then even with Kelnaka in the second episode, he kind of comes in, you know, doing his best imitation of Shrek, yells at those two guys to get out of his swamp, and it just kind of cuts to credits. But because we don't have those very beautiful epic in scope shots, like you want that, like Kelnaka, like they run off and Kelnaka like looks out at the sky and the two moons above him, and he kind of, you know, Wookiee growls at something, and then it kind of Iris is out. That feels like, so it's not like where it's ending, but the way it ends, it just feels very abrupt. And so like that is like my biggest thing that as I watch both episodes, it bothers me the most.
Okay. Shannon, your thoughts overall on Leslye Headland here as a writer and director of after these first two episodes here of The Acolyte?
It's uneven. I think there are some things that she gets that she 100% gets Star Wars. And then there are some things just like some logic choices. And I'm like, God, why? I mean, the show starts like with the blue text over the star field. It is ominous. I love the first scene. I like, it starts off really, really well. Then it hits some speed bumps. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, Vernestra is the big one. I mean, the fugitive.
We got that.
I feel like the fugitive moment at the end of episode 1. I'm like, it's just kind of unimaginative. Like there's just, I feel like that scene needed to be plus because we have seen this scene before. So you have to add something else. The moment where I think it's Yord in the second episode when he spots May when he's looking through the binoculars, that is a Star Wars moment. I mean, the score is perfect. The feeling, it's just there. It just feels like Star Wars. There is also some truly terrible dialogue. Poor Manny Jacinto had to deliver the line, Kofar is a relaxing forest retreat in the Outer Rim where the Wookiee Jedi lives. What the hell? Why do you need to recall it a relaxing retreat? It's a forest planet on the Outer Rim. Boom. That's all you need. Like the unnecessary adjectives drive me crazy. But also the ends, I agree with Vogel. It feels like it's a head-on collision with a wall. I mean, it's just like, the thing with the Acolyte at the end, or not the Acolyte, whoever's holding the red lightsaber.
Jason Mendoza.
Kelnaka. There it is. I don't disagree. I think Vogel is probably 100% right on that he's going to end up being our bad guy. But it's uneven. So there are some things that she absolutely gets. And then there are May breaking into the Jedi Temple twice. It's like, and we don't ever really see, it's like once you've had one break in, you would think the security would maybe be a little tighter. And that's you gotta see her get in. I mean, it's just little things like that I'm like, why didn't you show this? Like it would help. And also the little Osha and little May, they are played by twins, but I think they're fraternal. I don't think they're identical because those little girls don't look exactly alike. So it's like, if you're gonna use the same actress to play both older versions, use the same younger actress to play the two.
That's fair.
I mean, the only thing that I would push back on that and this is more of like a behind the scenes thing, is it's a lot harder to have a kid act against nothing than it is to have an adult do it. Like having two kids and really wanting to get an authentic performance where they're really talking to each other. You kind of do want two kids, because having that kid stand there and be like, now pretend you're talking to yourself. Okay, now pretend you're talking to yourself. It's going to be a lot harder to get a natural, you can do it, but it's going to be harder for sure.
Yeah. I would push back on that.
Not everyone's Northwest. Not everyone's Northwest. Some kids can't act. So yeah, I agree.
Just really quick, because I do agree with Shannon. One of the things that did really irk me is May goes to all this work to break into the Jedi Temple, and then when she hears people coming, she just pops out the roof because it's open.
Yeah.
And then when she comes back, she pops in the roof, and I'm like, you could have just popped into that roof the first time.
Yes. This is the problem. And I think Leslye Headland, does a good job, not a great job with these first 2 episodes. The clashing of tones is just it just goes, and you just hit this bump in certain moments, certain interactions. There's not enough weight and gravity to what is happening. I don't sense that from anybody as the whole in the entire first 2 episodes, except for maybe Yord. The only person who really understands that something shitty is happening here. Sola's more like, I got to redeem everybody and hug everybody, and a tree's here. Let's all hug. Like, it's too much of that shit, and there's not a balance to it. And I want to have more of that. The tension. Even Osha's like, oh, wait, May is alive? That's massive. May sees Osha and goes, Oshi, but doesn't go, wait, what have I been doing if she's alive? There's no moment there, because then the next moment is her and Qirim, and he's like, let's go to this planet and kill this Wookiee. Wait a minute.
Let's go to the relaxing forest retreat.
Yeah, wait a minute. I don't want to go now. She's alive. So there's something more here that I just feel like there's some lapse in logic or some incongruent thing that just bother me in some of the decisions by the characters itself. But look, I know Mike's going to disagree with me. I also think there's some influences from Disney being like, hey, we got to make this accessible and cool for the younger fans, and we got to do this way. And so for me, that's where the tones start to get a little bit like, come on, man. You want to tell an adult story? Let's do an adult story. Let's have that Andor vibe. We can still have the occasional pew pew, but like, we need the Andor vibe. If they're killing Master Jedi, that is huge, man. It's not just random younglings or random Jedi just hanging out in the outer rims. These are big Master Jedis who are attached to the Council. That's got to be a bigger situation. And also, why is Vernestra saying, come on back, we got to all talk about it, when Sol is like, look, there's the 4 of us, we're going to get killed. What are you talking about? So it makes me wonder if there are, and I hope this is true, that there's some more nefarious means or nefarious people behind the scenes at the Jedi Council that are allowing all of this to happen. So hopefully there's a bigger story at play. But again, I'm only saying this after the first 2 episodes. When the thing is done, I think I'll have a way to reassess it differently when we see all these mysteries played out, for sure. And I will throw in this. I think you're all wrong about the Master. I think the Master is Tassie Loa, who we met at the beginning in the first episode of the Battle of Yord. And I'll tell you why. The Zagarian were first introduced in the Clone Wars. They built their empire on the slave trade. What is more evil than building your empire on the slave trade? And so they're back now. So maybe she is quietly the Master behind the scenes pulling the strings. Because it would upset me that that you guys could pick up who the evil villain was in the first 2 episodes. I think that would be terrible storytelling for a murder mystery. You know what I'm saying? So going there.
I mean, look, that's why I think I'm probably wrong, because I looked at it and I'm like, this seems like this is who this is. So if I'm right, I'll be proud of myself. And if they do a good job and it's a cool story, then I'm in. But I would be more than happy to be wrong and like get to episode 4 and be like, oh no, I was clearly incorrect.
It was Tassie Loa the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Any final words? We got to wrap up. We got like 5 minutes left in this particular. I know you got to go, Mikey, but final words real quick, under 60 seconds. Shannon, I'll start with you. Go.
Yeah, you know what? Thus far, I'm enjoying it enough. It's a Star Wars show. I'm happy to have it. I'm curious where it's going to go. Even though I have some issues with some of the storytelling and some of the casting, I'm not willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And one other thing, production design wise, droid pilots turning into seats is awesome.
Yes, I think all the droids. Pip is a great little droid. Reminded me of we used to play the old football game on those things in the 80s, the Coleco thing. So yeah, Michael, your final thoughts, 60 seconds or less.
Yeah, look, I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm excited to see where it goes. It feels new and different. It feels like Star Wars to me, but it feels new and different. It's not a bunch of characters living between 2 movies where we know where we're going and we know where we've been. Like, all of these characters are brand new characters. And so to me, there's a freshness to this that I think has been lacking in Star Wars for a while. As much as I love seeing all my favorite characters from animation and other places pop up, and I will always enjoy those as well, there's just a freshness in here that I haven't felt since we met Grogu for the first time and there was a baby Yoda and we're like, what the fuck is this? Like, that makes me excited to see where this is going. And so far, I'm really enjoying the ride.
Yeah, I would say I'm enjoying it so far. I sense a darkness coming, a bigger darkness coming in this story. And maybe this is just kind of laying the groundwork and the foundation so that we dive deeper into the darkness. And I have a feeling that if they knock that darkness out of the park, this is going to be a fantastic series by the time it's all over. And I know there are some High Republic people who've read and studied these books who feel a little bit offended by some of the retconning that's going on to fit into the story, but maybe that will be also explained down the road as we approach this stuff.
I mean, I'm just going to say Jason Mendoza was a DJ in Jacksonville, Florida. And what is darker and more evil than that?
Oh my God. No offense to anybody from Jacksonville, Florida, any fans.
A darkness coming from the bad place.
Oh, boy. There it is. There it is. All right, you had it all in this review, ladies and gentlemen. Barry Gibb references, the good place, and everything else. We covered it all as much as we can. We got to wrap up now. Thank you all so much for watching this spoiler review. We will be spoiler reviewing every episode as we go along through the Acolyte. So keep coming back every week to hang out with us and to hang out with us on our main show that we do every week on Fridays as well. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey?
After you do all that following, you can hit that like button below, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page, leave your comments below. I know Star Wars fans usually don't have really strong opinions, but if you happen to have strong opinions about this show, let us know below in the comments. If you're listening to us on the podcast, go ahead and leave us some stars and some comments there so that we go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. All right, y'all take care of yourselves. Be well. And if I do a little plug, I put 2 reaction videos up of the first and second episode, me reacting to it, watching it for the first time. If you want to watch those, they're up there on the channel. And stay tuned for us on Friday for our main show here on the
Geek